Let's take a quick look at solving a quadratic inequality that is written in factored form, and we're going to graph our solution on a number line. The first thing that we're going to do is set this up as though it were an equation and see what the zeros would be. When we do that, we end up with the zeros of 0 and a positive 7. The next thing that we're going to do is put those two values on a number line. And I'm going to put it on a separate number line so we don't get confused with our answer. So I put the 0 and the 7 on a number line. Now what we're going to do is look at what if x is something less than 0. Let's see what happens when x is a negative 1. And we're just going to look at the sign. So if x is negative 1, my first factor of x would be negative because it would be negative 1. And my second factor of x minus 7 would be negative 1 minus 7, which is negative 8, which is also negative. So I would have negative times negative, which is positive. Between 0 and 7, if x is a positive 1, when I plug it in, I would get a positive 1 for x and a negative 6 for that x minus 7 factor. So that means here I'm negative. And then to the right of 7, let's say 8, we would have both factors would be positive because I'd have an 8 and then 8 minus 7 is positive 1. Which gives me a plus. Now, a few things we need to remember. First is that the 0 and the 7 cannot be included. They're going to have to be open circles because this symbol is greater than, not greater than or equal to. Also, if that symbol is greater, we just want where our values are positive. And that would be all of that and all of that. So to write that on our number line, we would have an open circle at 0 and the arrow to the left, and an open circle at 7 and an arrow to the right. Let's look at another one. Again, the first thing we're going to do is see what our zeros would be. So I set it equal to 0, and I found my zeros, and I put those zeros on the number line. Next, we're going to check our intervals. So when I check my intervals, again, it doesn't matter what value I'm choosing. I chose a negative 5 for x for the left of negative 3. Then I chose 0. I always choose a 0 or a 1 if I can. And then to the right of 5, I chose 10. We could have chosen 278 and it wouldn't have made a difference. So now looking at what our answer might be, we know that we have a less than, so both of these have to be open circles, and we wanted less than, so that would be negative, so that's all the stuff in there. So we would have an open circle at negative 3, an open circle at 5, and connect them. Let's look at another one. So this time I have greater than or equal to 0. So the first thing we'll do is set it equal to 0 to find our zeros. I found the zeros. They are 1 and 7 and put them on my number line. Next, we will check the intervals. So to the left of 1, I chose 0. And when I plug that into each of those factors, I get a negative for the x minus 7 factor and a negative for the x minus 1 factor, and negative times negative is positive. I chose a 3 for the middle interval, and I chose a 10 at the right. Again, it doesn't matter what you choose as long as it's in that interval. You can find the actual numeric value if you prefer, but it's not necessary. You just need the sign. You need to know whether it's positive or negative. For this problem, we want greater than or equal to. That means that these values are included, so they'll be closed circles, and we want greater than, so positive. So on my number line, I would have a closed circle at 1, a closed circle at 7, and go in the opposite directions. Last one. So again, If we're just going to look at the zeros, I can tell you real quickly, the zeros are 1 and -4. So we will put those values on our number line. Oh, -4 goes here. Be careful. And then we'll check our intervals. So I did my intervals. I have positive, negative, positive. This is greater than, so these are going to be open circles, and we want here. And so on my number line, open circle at -4, open circle at +1, and our arrows go in opposite directions. You can see when you do this that your number line up top kind of matches what your number line should be in your answer. Also, I know that all of the ones that we did here are positive, negative, positive, but that will not always be the case, especially when you move into polynomials, so be sure that you're careful. I hope you found this helpful.